Hi, I'm Dave from BoyInABand.com, and welcome to day 2 of the 7-day song tutorial on G-Funk, sponsored by Tyson Willett. Check out his music in the link below. Yesterday in day 1, I taught you how to compile a seriously punchy hip-hop beat. Today, I'll be teaching you how to make a bassy synth patch that's perfect for cruising in the project too. So, let's start by creating a combinator. Call the bass Da Booty Bass, because you know it's gonna rock that trunk. I really don't know what that was. Perhaps I was spiritually channeling Lil Jon. Inside it, right-click and create a shiny new instance of Thor Polysonic Synthesizer. If it's not shiny, it won't work. In it, open up, set to monophonic legato, which means only one note at a time, and let's get to work. I'll add in some notes now so we can hear how it builds up. I'll explain these notes later. Okay, so the notes are in, and first thing, we want 3 oscillators, all analog. And then run them through with 2 and 3. The first 2 we're going to have a saw wave, which is on by default, and a square wave. So select that pulse wave and change the pulse width to the middle, so it's a square wave. And these will provide the main tone of the bass. For the third one, take it down an octave and set sine wave mode on. This is a great technique for making basses super heavy, as it adds in a sweet sub-bass element. Then take the sustain here in the amp envelope to full so it doesn't lose any volume over time. Now, I'll show you how to make a few different alterations to this bass to achieve different G-Funk sounds. So, first of all, we've got this one, which is kind of cheesy, and that's the one we're working on, so it's not quite finished yet. But to show you how to make an Eazy-E bass that's cheesy-E, take the E and V here, right up to full, bring the decay on the filter envelope down to about 500 milliseconds, around there, and then bring the frequency right down to about 300-ish, and then check it out. Serious EDAM. Bring the resonance up a bit as well, for some extra cheddar. For a conventional Dre synth bass, try removing the square wave, take off that E and V, then just bring the frequency up until you hear that high end creep in. Yeah, around between 4 and 5 kilohertz. This can be focused more with an EQ, which we'll be doing in the moment. But we'll do it on the effect we started building up, so let's put that square wave back in there. Reset the frequency here and the filter to default, hold Control and click it to do that. Quite a useful little tip. And then create, right click, create, Scream 4 Distortion. Now, turn off the cut, turn the damage down to about 3/8, you don't want it too damaging. And then put it on tube mode, which emulates a tube amp, with 1/4 contour. See, it tells you what the parameter is changing here. And full bias. This gives a crunchier tone, so if you take a listen to that. But it doesn't quite have the body that we want. So, here in the body section, change the resonance to full for serious bassiness. Turn the scale to full to avoid the overtone you get down there. Then we're going to change the type to E. Hear the difference that makes from type B to type E. And bring the master volume here down to just below half, just to compensate for the volume change, because that does boost the volume quite a bit. Now we've got some tones sorted, create an M-class EQ, right click, create M-class EQ, and we'll do a bit of boosting. We're going to bring up the bass using param 1 around 140 Hz. Does that ring any bells? Remember that we cut the kick at that point, meaning there's space in the frequency spectrum for our bass to really live up to its potential. For all we know, it might go on to become a world-renowned philanthropist or something as a result. But for now, all we can see is that the mix is much less muddy than if we boost lower down. So let's boost that up a little bit. By a little bit, I mean a lot, about 10 decibels. And by quite a wide 2.7-ish Q, around there. And then we're going to bring up that crunchy mid-tone by 5 decibels, because if you listen now, there's plenty of bass there, but we've kind of lost that mid-tone, so let's bring it up with param 2. Just leave it on the default, and yeah, about 5 decibels by a really wide 1.6. That just really brings up that mid-tone there. So if you take a listen without it, and with it, you can hear it's got a bit more of a crunch to it now. Now, this really peaks out the audio down here, as you can see, if you've boosted too much. So to compensate for that, either go back and cut every frequency that aren't the ones that we've boosted using a bunch of EQs, or just accept any soft clipping as tonal goodness, and right-click, create a compressor. Then take the output gain down a little bit. We can also use the compressor to beef up the punch of the bass as well. I'm just going to bring the attack down a little bit, just to make it a short blip of volume at the start of the bass, followed by a nice constant volume. So if we take a listen to that now, no clipping, and nice G-funky bass. Damn, that's funky. So, I'll explain a bit about the notes now. Here we have the riff, and we can see it starts on the root note here, B flat, playing a couple of on-beat notes to start driving the riff. Then there's this little fiddly bit here with G sharp and A, then a little gap before returning to that B flat. Now this is interesting because the A, the one in the middle, isn't actually in the key of the song, and this is what we call an accidental note, when the note out of the key is played for effect. It's used a lot in jazz, and jazz and funk were very good friends growing up, so they borrow a lot from each other. It just makes it sound that bit cooler. Next, I repeat the rhythm with different notes. You got da-dum-dum, da-dum-dum. Dropping down to this E flat right down here, which I then use as the basis for the next two little parts of the riff here and here. These ones quickly go from the E flat to another note, which then hits the octave above, emulating those funky octave bass lines. This is where that monophony is useful, as the overlapping notes, we can see that these ones are slightly overlapping, and they don't matter. It just quickly jumps to that second note without any untidy overlap, without having to mess about being massively precise about where you place the notes. So check it out. But yeah, that quick E flat gives a little extra bit of swing to it. It's known as a grace note, as it's so short. Wow, accidental notes, grace notes, who'd have thought G-Funk would be the tutorial that delves into music theory the deepest? And there we have it. A bass line funkier than James Brown's Used Underwear. Join me tomorrow for day 3, where I'll be delving into a dirty, whirly lead synth to counterpoint the bassiness of the track so far, as well as adding in some big strings and a bassy pad to add a cool, epic section to the beat. See you tomorrow, guys.